And we're live. Welcome back, everybody, to Behind the ToolBelt, episode 212. Today, we have another phenomenal guest. Stay tuned. We will be back after our short intro from our sponsors.
TC Backer. Roofing, siding, windows, gutter, solar. Roofing, siding, windows, gutter, solar. TC Backer, TC Backer.
Is your lead flow down? Whether you're a company owner, office staff, salesperson, or installer, you're a roofing rock star. We help you get more leads with custom SEO, Google Ads, and a pro website.
TC Backer, TC Backer.
And we're back once again. How's it going, everybody? Yeah. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. We're back in York, Pennsylvania, where it's cold as hell. We got a bunch more snow last night, and I think they're calling for more snow this week. And we have a great, phenomenal guest today with us, Ben Williams. Ben Williams, how the hell are you, buddy?
Dude, I'm doing incredible. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome, man. So Ben, we were talking earlier that how you are new to our show. Not new to the industry though. You're into all the things that we're all into and the things that we discuss on a daily, weekly basis here on Behind the ToolBelt and any other function that we're involved with. But man, it seems like I'm looking forward to our new relationship, forging this new relationship and stuff, because what little research that I did on you, it looks like you're a health nut, you're in the real estate, you're in the, investments, you're a personal coach and all the things that I hold, true and close to my heart, the personal growth, the development, the mind, the body, and the soul, and of course investment and family and all that stuff. So let's dive right into it, man. Why don't you typically we go through what it was like, how you got here and what it's like now, but tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey and your personal growth and health, as well as your work and personal coaching and your being a realtor.
Yeah, for sure. So a little bit of like my history prior to getting into business. I was in the military for a while. So I was in the special operations community for about 2.5 years. Right after high school, I was a firefighter EMT and then enlisted into the military. Did that, went through, special forces selection, went to RASP, and then ended up getting medically discharged in October of 21. I actually broke both my legs and was super down bad. And I kind of went through this time where right after I broke my legs, probably one of the guys that was closest to me actually passed away. And I remember checking my checking account and I had $736. And I was like, I'm never going to let myself be in this position where if somebody that I love or has love for me or we're in a relationship and they need me, whether it be financially, physically, emotionally, spiritually, whatever that has to look like I want to be that person. I want to be that person that people can lean on. And I had a moment of reality where I had to look at myself and I was like, I am not that man right now.
Mhm.
And that was hard. But I'm glad it happened. As painful as it was the best thing that happened to me. Um, and then that's been 3 years ago. And then I got on after I got medically discharged. I got on a path of personal development. Really took my health serious. I think prior to that, it was a lot more of like I just want to get big and I just want to be strong. And now it's a lot more of like the durability of my body and actually being able to last in situations. And then I also got very serious about learning about money. We can go into that, my real estate career and stuff like that. Really dialed into that. But the biggest thing for me was just honestly my mental game, and then the spiritual aspect of, and we kind of touched about it before we got into this was your higher self, your higher purpose. And so those were the biggest things for me is dialing in my mental game, and then getting in alignment with what my higher self and what my purpose truly is on this planet. Um, so went through that, and that's kind of been the last 3 years, and then here we are.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Let's unpack that situation there where you broke your legs,
Okay.
and you mentioned, it was probably the best thing that ever happened to you. What do you mean by that?
So when that happened, I was 21 years old, and the only thing that I ever knew in my life to be true was I want to be special operations. I want to be the most badass guy that I can be. I want to be super tough and rigid, and nobody can break my shell. And I just want to be as tough as possible. And that was my identity. I wanted to be a person that nobody really knew. I wouldn't let people get close to me, but I held that identity as like I want to be a ranger. I want to be tough. And then you know, God, the universe, reality hit me
Hmm.
pretty hard and was like, we don't care what you think. This is what's going to happen. And so when I broke my legs, I broke my legs beginning in airborne school, jumping out of planes. I had
Hmm.
stress fractures on my right leg, and they basically were like, you can continue to train, but your legs are going to break, or you can just go ahead and start the discharge paperwork. And being 21 and full of testosterone, I said, no, I'm going to keep training. And then, sure enough, ended up breaking my legs about 2 months after that. But, anyways, go on to say, after that happened, I remember laying in this bed in Fort Benning, Georgia, and I was like, who's Ben? Who even am I? And it
Hmm.
was very, very hard to accept that I didn't even know who I was. I had this identity that I could no longer align with because it wasn't going to be in my reality of being special operations, of being this person that I had created. And so I just said, okay, and this is the question that's got me through a lot is, well, this sucks, but what's next?
Hmm.
I would just go, this sucks, but what's next? And then I was like, all right, I want to be a person of impact. I want to care about people. I want to be there for people like my buddy that passed away. I want to be that guy. And then that's what sparked the identity shift that let me become this person that actually loves people and actually cares about people and lives a life of purpose, not just for what I think my purpose is.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, no, it's funny. And the reason why I asked you about that is because, looking back now, I'm sure, and back then you didn't see the opportunities or why this was happening for you
mm,
and not necessarily to you, and it's
yeah,
hard to see that the light at the end of the tunnel when you're going through so much pain. But through that pain comes growth,
yeah,
right? We could, at that moment you have a decision to make. Like, am I going
mhm,
to just continue laying in this bed and woe
yes,
is me, or am I going to decide which path, trajectory that this is going to propel me in,
yeah,
which direction am I going to start flowing in at that moment? And it's like through that pain, comes growth, and then with growth comes more pain and more experience. You know what I mean? And that's the thing about, trials and tribulations and being tried and true is that you're gaining experience, you're gaining the knowledge. If you use that, if that's what you allow to manifest from that
yes,
pain, right? Because sometimes it comes out in different negative, sometimes things manifest into drug addiction, alcohol,
Sure.
or manifest into being a better human being, have wanting to have impact, wanting to work on my body, wanting to care for my health, my mind, my soul, my fitness. What am I consuming? And it sounds like you really chose that path, that to look at this like, okay, I'm going to get through this adversity. I'm going to make my body stronger. I need to make my mind stronger. And I think it's unfortunate because a lot of times when tragedy happens in people's lives, they allow that to, keep them down.
Right.
It suppresses them. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
unfortunately, we do that to ourselves because, you talked about mindset, right? And I want to talk a little more about that maybe a little bit later on, about mindset, when it comes to, how important, maybe we can talk about it now, how important mindset is when
Oh man.
you start on that journey of self-improvement. What
Yeah.
form or how important is mindset when you're in a state like
Oh.
that?
Oh, it's everything. And it's not, I think people have this idea of mindset is that they just say these nice affirmations and do these things. And it is true. But I think a lot of it goes back to understanding how your mind is actually working and the
Mm,
relationship that you have with the voice that is talking in your head. Like the first level of that is going to be, I, I am the voice talking in my head. So when you hear your mind go, I'm not smart enough for this, I'm not good enough for this, you identify as that voice. And then there's four levels to it. And the second level is just going to be, okay, I'm not the voice, but there's someone telling me what's the truth. And then you go, okay, then I am not good enough. And I understand that's not my voice. And then you can move on to, okay, that is my voice, but how do I change it? And then you get to this level where you go, the only voice that is talking back to me is the memories of my past self of a belief that I still hold true about either an experience I had or what someone else said to me. And so you have to go back and give love and compassion to that voice when those things come up. Like when I'm laying there in that bed and I'm going, my legs are broken, my friend has passed away, everything looks like shit, my life hurts physically. How
mhm,
do I get out of this? I can look at it and go, Ben, this isn't true. This is not who you are. This is simply your experience. And everything that is happening right now is for you to develop the characteristics that you need for you to receive the manifestations that you've asked for. Because I've always asked for big things in my life. I've
mhm,
always asked to be impactful. I've always asked to be wealthy. I've always asked to be in physical good health. I've always asked to have good friends. But people forget that there's a price tag for the things that you ask for. And
mhm.
you have to show up to pay that price tag with the right intention. Because if you show up with the intention that I'm not good enough, but I'm going to stand here and pay it anyways, the universe will decline it because it doesn't even believe what you're saying. But if you show up and say, I am good enough, I can do this because I am choosing to love myself and to prioritize myself because I know that whenever I show up at my highest form, it is the
Mhm.
highest and best good for everybody, not just myself. And it's just a different way to look at it when you realize it's a benefit for everybody.
Yeah, that's so important, man. That last piece that you just said there is that, a couple of things. Like one, you're the sum of those that you surround yourself with,
Oh,
right?
for sure.
But more importantly, like what are you bringing to the table? And I most recently read a book, and we've talked about this probably about the third time we talked about this on a podcast, but it's very important, and it's so true. It's energy, right? Like the energy that you bring to those that are around you. And I recently changed my job title to CEO, and everyone's like, well, no shit, you're CEO. But what CEO actually stands for is Chief Energy Officer.
Ooh, that's
So when
good.
I walk into the room, I need to make, so this is something I have to work on. And it reminds myself every time I send an email and I see my signature down there in the bottom of that left bottom corner there, I got to remind myself that I'm the one bringing the heat. I'm the one bringing the thunder. I'm the one bringing
Yeah.
the energy here, even though I don't feel like it, but and I hate this analogy, but you got to fake it till you make it sometimes. And I wish I could come up with something better right this second, but sometimes you
I know
just got
you're
to
yeah.
act as if, even though you don't feel like bringing the heat. Sometimes you don't feel like bringing that thunder, but you got to suit up, show up, and bring that positive energy because I've watched it. I've been around people that didn't have that energy or flowed well with me personally, and I can only take that in small increments, or else it kind of
Yep.
like absorbs what positive energy that I have. So I don't want to be that negative Nelly and I'm guilty of it. I think we're all guilty of that. But I think the important thing here that we need to take from this is that we need to be aware of it. And being aware of it, that's half the battle, knowing that, oh shit, I'm feeling negative right now and I don't want this to rub off on somebody else. But it's almost like you have to like gravitate yourself above you and see yourself in somebody else before you realize, oh my God, that's me. That's
Yes.
me at many times. And it's like until you have that aha moment, I think you don't really know it. And Vic and I was talking about something today. It's like it's never a good idea until we think it's a good idea. Even though
Yes.
you've been telling me that, man, you have a bad attitude and you really need to work on this. And it's like one day I wake up and it's like, you know what? I'm kind of tired of having a bad attitude. And it's like, well, no shit, Sherlock. I've been telling you that for 12 months that your attitude just sucks. And that's why nothing positive is happening in your life.
Right.
And like you were talking, like the forces of nature, it's kind of like, positive energy breeds positive energy. And I've controlled the room, unfortunately unaware of, I felt like shit. So I wanted you to feel like shit unconsciously.
Yes. Yes.
You know what I mean? Like I'll be just because I felt low self-esteem, insecurity, whatever the case might be. I'm having a bad day and I'm not even mad at you, but I want you to feel like a piece of crap because I feel like a
Yes.
piece of crap. Well,
100%.
do that in reverse. Think about that for a minute. Like if I want to walk into a room, it doesn't matter. I want to be known for that guy. It's like whenever you walk into a room, it's like a ray of sunshine.
Yes.
I don't think anyone has ever said that behind my back, but I'm working on it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you're speaking my language. I mean, Nikola Tesla, he has the quote that to think of the world as energy and frequencies is to know the secrets of the universe. And
Hmm.
you're 100% right. And once you understand that language is simply just something that we use as a tool, but
Hmm.
this is a universe of energy. And I can only give somebody what I have. You can't give somebody something that you do not have. I had this conversation yesterday. Is if I need some, whether it be a real estate transaction or a romantic relationship or just a friend of mine, and I want them to feel empowered, I want them to feel loved, or for them to get out of their negative energy. If I show up and all I do is beat them up for that, they're just going to continue in that cycle. But if I just show up in love and I say, man, I love you, and I can portray that energy to them, that's the only thing that I'll get back. It's the only thing
Hmm.
I'll get back because energy can't be created or destroyed. And even if you're talking to a group of 10 people and you show up with the intention of love, darkness cannot surpass light. It can't exist. It
Hmm.
will either leave or change. That's it.
Hmm.
So like a lot of people worry about, oh, what if we have a few bad apples? I'll let that energy weed them out. They
Yeah.
will not make it. So
Amen. Amen to that. And so many cultures get ruined. I think, and it's our responsibility to not allow cultures. And I'm thinking of at work, work culture, and there's of course there's family culture too, right? And we're responsible for both, and everyone's responsible. Like our job as CEOs, chief energy officers, is to create other CEOs.
for
Right.
sure.
So everybody that you should surround yourself with should want to be on that same path of becoming a CEO. And sometimes they need help and things pointed out to them. And sometimes it's called candor. I call it kind candor. Right. That
Mhm.
doesn't mean, I'm calling you out in your shit to make you feel like a piece of shit. But I sincerely from a place of love need you to know that, your energy right now, if
Yes.
we want to, make it sound woo woo, but it really isn't, because it's true, because I've done it my entire life. I have been such a bad influence. And that's what it is, a bad influence. Shit. I was the kid that parents wouldn't allow their children to spend the night at our house. I would always have to
Yes.
spend the night at their house because of the influence that I had over other people. I realized and identified that early on in my life that I had leadership qualities, but I didn't know how to manifest it in a
Yes.
positive way, to impact people positively. Because, when I say impact, and I try to be real specific on positive impact, because we all know that there's negative impact, there's positive impact. And for so long, I've been around negative people, negative situations. And one of the things that I made as my New Year's resolution, most people add things, more crap on top of the
Yep.
pile of New Year's resolutions. Well, one of my New Year resolutions was to remove things,
Yeah, I
right?
love
And
that.
and instead of adding more crap, I'm going to remove some stuff, right? I'm going to remove these negative things. If I made an obligation, I'm going to follow through with that obligation, but I'm going to be super mindful when I'm going through situations and scheduling things and having meetings or putting myself in situations. Now that I'm aware of what my resolution is going to be, I can say to myself at that moment, okay, I don't need to do this again. I'm going
Yes.
to follow through on my obligation. I'm going to be the responsible person and continue on with whatever it was that I'm going to be responsible for at this moment. But I need to remove myself or this person or this
Yes.
place or situation that I continuously have put myself in and wondered why I just feel like crap, or I feel drained. Especially, I mean, because this is the thing, we have a choice today. Everybody has a choice. If you're in a bad relationship, if there's a task that you have to do, or whatever the case is, and this can be personal and this can be professional. If there's certain people in your life that just seem like you need to know yourself that you can take this individual in 15-minute increments, and after that, because some people you just can't remove from your life. The
Right.
facts are what the facts are, right? And I don't want to be real specific about that, but I know for me, there's certain people that I can spend the entire day with. There are
Yeah.
certain people that I can only spend 15 minutes with. There's other people that it's like 2.3 seconds. That's it. We say what we
Yes.
got to say. And I'm not mean. I'm professional. I'm kosher. I'm whatever. Hold my composure. But I just can't be, because life is too short, first and
It is.
foremost, to
It is.
not feel positive energy and feel flow and feel free, right?
Yeah.
Because
It's 100%. I mean, this is probably one of my favorite subjects. It goes along with the power of no and letting people know this is my standard, period.
Mhm,
And you kind of touched on it with the kind candor. I'll give somebody 2, 3 times of like, hey man, like what's going on here? Like I see this action and it doesn't line up with what you're saying. I need like what's the explanation? Like, what are we doing to resolve this?
mhm.
And then I'll just get to a point where I'll just be very, very honest. And it's not like in a mean way. I'll show up and be like, listen, man, I love you. I care about this relationship and I want this to work out, but I'm just letting you know that these actions are not lining up with the energy and the vision that I have for my life. Either you need to change, we need to renegotiate this relationship, or I need to understand better. Like it's one of those three. Like there's a quote that says it's hard to hate from close up. And so if I can understand better where they're coming from,
Mhm.
all right, I get you, man. But if it's just simply you're just refusing to take the actions that you need to be taken, or you're refusing to make the changes that you need to be changing, I must cut you off because you will throw me off my vision. And there are people that are on the other side of that vision that need me to show up in this way.
Mhm.
Sorry, man. It is what it is. And if you can say that to somebody, it's going to be very hard for them to hold resentment against you when you show up and you're saying, I'm doing this for love, man. I'm doing this because one day somebody's going to hand me my little girl and I need to be that man on that day. And if I'm not that man now, there's no way I ever will be. And if you show up that way and he has a problem with it, he doesn't really care anyways.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. And right there and then you can ask yourself that question, am I removing this? Is this
Yep.
one of those things I'm removing from my life this year? You
Yes.
know what I mean? Because that's the thing, we get that choice, but I think so many of us feel like, we don't have a choice, but we do. And like you said, there's no is a complete sentence, or I can't is a
It is.
complete sentence. Like I don't have the time, and it's okay to be, honest to a certain extent of like, you don't have to, when to do so, not to injure them or others. You,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like, we don't want to
Yes.
necessarily hurt their feelings, because that's not the vibe we're trying to give off here. It's just that, my vibe, unfortunately, is much more important than the vibe you're kicking off right now. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? So
exactly.
I need to pump
Exactly.
the brakes here for a moment. And yeah,
And when you can show up and explain it that way in a form of love, you can also be unattached to their timeline of growth. You
yeah.
can just go, this is where you're at. It's not in alignment with where I'm at. I can love
Hmm.
you and I can walk away with this in love. And it also, for me, it's helped me a lot when I exit that way to when I
Hmm.
look back on the relationship. Because a lot of times I'll look back on a relationship and go, oh, well, maybe this could have been different, or maybe I could have said this and it would have worked out or whatever. But when I leave in love and empowerment, I can go,
Hmm.
that was the right decision. That was the
Yeah.
right decision. And I don't have to go into self beat up because I know that person knows that I love them. It just is what it is.
That's a good point too, because I'm the one, I'll beat myself up,
Yep.
because oh man, I feel like I hurt their feelings, and
Yeah.
then I got to go back and make an amends or something like that. But then
Yeah.
when I do that, if I don't learn how to articulate a message from love, from a place of love, right? because I've done it. I've done both. I've done really well at both. I've been able to articulate the message in a very loving way, but then I've also been able to articulate the message in a very hurtful, harmful way. I said what I wanted to say, but I said it very mean and hateful, which kind of outwon the point that I was trying to make, where I felt like I needed to go back and make an amends. But what happens when you do that, at least from my experiences, then everything that I said, that first and foremost, they're mad at me. They think I'm a dick to begin
Yeah.
with, because and I couldn't get my point across, because whatever the situation was, my behavior outwon whatever that particular situation was that made me say what I had to say at that moment. But when I go back and make that amends, it totally erases the whole entire point of what I was trying to say, even, and because I said it poorly.
Yeah.
And I've done that so many times in my
Absolutely.
lifetime. And again, this is me finally. So I saw it in somebody else first before I could actually see it in myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I have a particular situation. So I'm a member of this group, and we volunteer there a lot. And there was this gentleman that I was pretty good friend. I knew him. He was an acquaintance. I don't want to call him a friend necessarily. And
Mhm.
we were down in the basement of this clubhouse, and we were going. He had something in his hand, and I must have said something that he didn't agree with. But now, granted, I didn't say it rude, and honestly, I was rather surprised by his reaction to what I said, and he
Mhm.
threw a box of books at me. Okay, well,
Wow.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I of course was like, "Hey, mofo!" Chased after
Right.
him. He ran out. I grabbed his leg, and it transpired into this thing.
Right.
And a couple weeks later, I didn't see it right away, but it occurred to me. There go I.
Mm.
There go I. Right?
Yes.
Like I was given the opportunity to rise above, literally rise above the situation. And look, now, granted, I grabbed a hold of his leg. I shouldn't have behaved the way that I did either, because I'm a man and nobody's going to talk to me that way. And
Right.
that's something else
Yeah.
that I struggle with and need to work on. I'm not perfect at that. I'm getting better. Most importantly, I'm aware of it. But I was able to get above that situation and watch how it unfolded, and was like, man, he did nothing any differently than I would have or have done in the past to people. You know what I
Yes.
mean? So that's where forgiveness, because forgiveness is another topic, rabbit hole that we can go down, because that's a part of energy, that's a part of
It is.
healing, that's a part of self-esteem. First and foremost, I need to learn how to forgive myself, and secondly, I need to learn how to forgive other people, because let's face it, we didn't get put on this earth to walk around people and feel uncomfortable around them.
No.
Do you know what I'm saying?
I,
But the continuously apologizing to people, after a while, those words don't mean anything. I'm sorry.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
now
They
it's
turn
more
off.
of an action thing. Like don't
Yeah.
speak it. Let me see it. Let me catch
Wow.
it. Let me feel that you're sorry. Right? Because
Yeah.
I've done it to my
Yeah.
parents over the years, and it's like, don't even tell me that. Don't even
Yep.
tell me you love me, and don't even tell me you're sorry, because these words mean nothing. You are so sorry that, yes, you are sorry.
Yeah.
You are sorry. What
It
did
goes
your
back
dad
to
say to you that one time, Vic?
Oh, he said,
Vic,
when I told him I was sorry for doing whatever I did, he said, "Yep, you're sorry."
no, it
And
was,
then he followed up with, your actions are so loud, I can't hear a damn thing you're saying."
yeah, your actions are so loud, I can't hear a damn thing. Vic, it was probably about a year ago, Vic told me that. And I thought, you know what? That is so true, because, but again, negative impact, positive impact. How are my actions or my behavior affecting other people? And we don't realize the effect that we have on other people when they talk about unmanageability. And I'm sure we all know somebody whose life is unmanageable. And if we continuously enter into that chaos, then our lives, we don't know how badly we affect other people, whether they're losing sleep over us, or financially, a financial burden on them, an emotional burden on them. It's like
yep.
we almost make them as sick as we are, especially parents and loved ones, and those that we love, seem to be the ones that we hurt most.
Yep. Oh, for
And
sure.
that's, again, that's identifying that. So as an expert, I'm saying that you're an expert here. It definitely sounds like you're an expert on personal growth. What are some practical tips and strategies you can share with our listeners to help them enhance their overall well-being and achieve their goals?
Ooh, good question. I want to go back and touch on one thing you said, and then I'll
Do it.
answer that question.
Yep.
So, a lot of time, and this goes back to something that I was taught in the military is, whenever you get to a point where you're about to go, I'm sorry, or I feel like I should be sorry.
Mhm.
The guy, I remember my drill sergeant told me, he said, "Don't be sorry, just be better. Just be better, and you don't have to be sorry." And
Mhm.
I think that all the time, even when I catch myself bumping into somebody like, "Oh, I'm sorry," I go, "Don't be sorry, be better."
Mhm.
And just being more aware of the things that are going on around me. Like the
Yeah.
situation with that guy where he threw the box at you, at some level, that you're right, that was you.
Mhm.
And the universe gave you the opportunity to reconcile that part of you and go, I choose to no longer participate in that version of myself.
Yeah.
And
Amen.
I love you, man.
Yeah.
It is that's that.
Yep.
And because there's no way to respond to that when you refuse to respond to reality that someone else creates. You just, no, I'm good. And then you're able to just go on because now you have all the power threshold. That guy
Mhm.
goes, I can't get him back. He doesn't care.
Yeah.
He simply just loves me because he loves himself.
Mhm.
And it's just something that I think is super interesting once we realize it. Um, but so practical things that have helped me, meditation's huge. Just
Mm.
sitting down, getting off my phone. I think right now everybody's distracted is the biggest problem. I think people are
Yeah.
confused and distracted. Sitting down and meditating and actually getting real with myself and just getting out of my head and into my body and feeling my energy and go, how do I feel? Do I feel like a victim? Do I feel like I'm ashamed? And then tracing that back and go, why do I feel that way? Okay, well, what was that situation? And what is true about that situation? And then what do I believe to be true about that situation? And what do I believe to be true that is not true about that situation?
Mhm.
And then once I can figure that out, I can shift that belief and then I can shift that energy. And the only way to do that is to get very, very clear with how you feel. And that would be meditation. And then after that, a huge thing would be journaling. Because
Mm.
there's a lot of times in your life, because life is just that roller coaster of like, yes, good, yes, no, good, bad, whatever, you know. And it helps me a lot whenever I catch myself in that victim mindset or that my life is shit or my life is, hard or whatever. I can look back in those journals and go, I had a lot of traction here. I had good feelings here. What was I doing differently? How was I
Mhm.
showing up differently than how I am right now? And I can answer that almost every time. It's because I start to get selfish and ungrateful. When I start thinking about Ben and I start thinking about things that I want, and then because of that, living in lack because I'm not being grateful for what I do have, I just get in a spiral of negative energy. And then I can go, okay, nope. I can catch that and I can go, I'm being selfish and I'm being ungrateful. How can I give and how can I be thankful to be giving? And then I can
Mhm.
just get back and get myself back out of that hole. And I think journaling, meditation, and you got to be working out. That's
Yeah.
period. You have got to move your body. Energy and motion tends to stay in motion. And that's true for everything. That's on a physical plane all the way up to a spiritual, emotional plane. If you are stagnant, you will be just that. Move
I
around.
love that. I love that. Yeah. Yeah, I'm a firm believer in meditation. It's a little
Yeah,
something I do every morning. Every morning. That's one of those things that I call my win. We stack wins in the morning.
for sure.
Um, before we go out into the world, I put my armor on and meditation. I read a daily devotional book
Oh,
and I'll
nice.
reflect on. It's called the Daily Reflections, and it's got this, a couple few paragraphs and today's date and stuff like that. And I've read it actually I've read it for over 11 years. I
Wow.
continue. I read it back every single year, and I find something new every time. Every
That's
year that I've
incredible.
read it, I find something new in it, and it kind of just gives me that 2.3 minutes, right, to center myself. Knowing, that no one's really awake yet in the world yet. It's still dark outside, and then I added another book to my arsenal there that I started to read. It's another daily affirmation by Ryan Holiday. Um, I can't for the life of me think of the name of it, but I've read it. I started reading it last year. The Daily Dad.
Oh,
It's
nice.
it's so good. I bought my daughter one because it's not just for you know it's for parents, period,
Right.
not the
Yeah.
dad, mom, grandparents. And I'll be quite honest with you, I apply those principles that I read, both books, my daily reflections and my daily dad. I apply them in my work and in my personal life But I think meditation's huge. I don't do much journaling. I have done journaling, but I can
Yeah.
tell you an instance that it really helped me out. I was fuming one time. I was so upset with something, and there were so many things I wanted to tell this person.
Yeah.
Right. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to start jotting these things down. And I did, man. And I was on a rampage, man. I'm writing, and going, punching him in the face, and
Yeah.
all in my head. Like I got this battle going on, man. And I'm writing and I'm writing and I'm writing and I'm writing and I'm writing. And I read it after I had it completed. I read it and I thought, that's pretty crazy. Some of it was so far fetched, and thank God
Yeah.
that they can't lock you up for what you think.
Yep.
Okay. But it gave me a moment to reflect on how ridiculous my behavior would have been. It gave me that 40 minutes to catch my breath and not react, but get in a headspace where I could respond in a
Yes.
healthy way,
Yes.
right? And then it also highlighted some bullet points that needed to be discussed, but in a mature manner, is
Yes.
what it did for me. So I can see how journaling, and on anything, and that was just one particular instance where I wrote and I really needed to get some things off my chest. Right. And then I
Yes.
put it in there and I still have it. And I shared that advice with a friend of mine because he was struggling with something. And I said, it does multiple things. One, it gives you the bullet points that need to be discussed. Two, you're saying what you want to say and need to say to just get out in that way that you feel like you need to get it out, but you know that you can't get it out in that way. So it helps you do that. Plus, it also allows you to pull out just the crazy, dramatic
Yes.
crap.
Yes.
You get just that head trash stuff. You just put it on there, and however crazy it is, write it down, get it out, empty that
Exactly.
trash can, and
Yep.
get it out. And I was able to. It actually allowed me to pump the brakes for about 2 or 3 days before I had to have this conversation with this individual. I was able to, sleep on it, think on it, prepare myself mentally and physically, working out. If I was still angry, and I work out. I started lifting heavy weights. I don't know, several months ago. I was really big into cardio and calisthenics and things like that. But
Oh,
recently,
nice.
I got into lifting heavier things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I wanted to bulk up a little bit and be a little
Yeah.
stronger. And like you said, I needed that. I'm at a different season of my life right now where I feel like I really need to, get stronger mentally, physically, and spiritually. And
Yes.
again, those internal things and external things. And that's one of the questions I wanted to ask you later on. We might not have time, but that'll give us part two
Yeah.
of the Ben Williams show here. If we don't get there
Yeah. I
yet.
mean, that's you brought up such a powerful point as far as journaling out.
Mhm,
Whether it be every day, once a week. Even in that situation where there's an instance, is you gave yourself the opportunity to feel it. If you
mhm.
can't feel it, you can't fix it. So many people just want to numb it or ignore it, and they
Yes.
go, "I'm pissed off, but I'm just gonna, mm, I'm just gonna, I'm not talking."
Stuff it.
Well, you're not gonna fix anything. You're not gonna
Mhm,
fix anything, and you're definitely not showing up in love. I promise you that. And so, if you give yourself the opportunity, because I promise you, I've had some journal entries that if the U.S. government read, they would arrest me, because I've been that guy where I was 20 in the military, angry. Let's get after it. But once I'm able to articulate how I feel in the
mhm,
situation, I'll more than likely catch myself at some point in a journal entry going, "All right, maybe I am being a little over dramatic."
mhm.
And I can go back to that emotion and I can acknowledge it and feel it and have compassion and love for myself because that is me that is having those feelings. And if time's relative, at some point I'm still going to be that 15-year-old boy that just got pissed off because you disrespected me and I'm ready to go. And I
Mhm.
can go, "Hey man, that wasn't disrespect. You misunderstood. This is the situation. I love you. Let's move on." And but you got to go back to being able to feel it. So many people ignore it, but if you can get to where you can feel it and fix it, that's when your life starts to change.
Yeah. No, that's such a good point too. And I'm guilty of stuffing. I call it stuffing. You know, I'll stuff something thinking, yeah, no, I got this. I'll deal with it later, stuff it.
Yeah.
And what happens is I call it the snowball effect.
Yes.
And it's not because there's a bunch of snowballs coming at me. And sometimes my life is like that. But when I say that, what I imagine is that, the snowball is like that big. It's at the
Mhm.
top of the hill, and then you push it down the hill. And as it's tumbling down the hill, it's getting bigger and
Bigger,
bigger
bigger,
and
and bigger.
bigger. And there I am standing at the bottom of the hill. The next thing I know, this snowball's coming at me that's this big, and it rolls me over.
Yes.
Right. And it's just all of these small things that I don't think are really going to bother me later, or that I can deal with, or it's not my problem, or whatever excuse I give myself for not dealing with it at that moment,
Yes.
in a healthy manner. It tends to roll me over, steamroll me. And then
Yes.
typically I'll come out of the side of my neck on an individual that has nothing to do with any of those situations or issues. And we talk about this a lot, going back to, you got to know yourself. Like, what's your limitations? What's your threshold for pain? And when the pain is great enough, you'll finally get off your dead ass and do something about it.
Yes.
As human beings, that's who we are. That's what we are. And that's just in our DNA, especially men. And not that women don't do that, but I think women do a lot better job of expressing to people or themselves, how they're feeling. They're a little more in tune, I think, or catch on quicker, or more mature, probably is
Absolutely.
what it is at the end of the
Yeah.
day, in tune with their feelings of like, hey, I don't like how that makes me feel. Jana and I had a conversation yesterday, and she said to me, I don't like this. I need to let you know that there's something that I don't like. And she said to me, I need you to hear me, because I tend to have selective hearing. And
Right.
I didn't get upset. It brought me
It's a
front and
powerful
center.
communication. That's a power communication tool that you guys have, where she can
Yeah,
go, I need you to hear me. Yeah, that's
yeah,
huge.
yeah. Because she knows me. She knows me
Yeah.
probably better than
Yeah.
I know myself. It's pretty pathetic, but it's true. Um, so front and center, it caught my attention. I'm like, all right, and I listened, and it was like, you know what? I'm sorry. I am. I didn't even think about that. You know what I mean? It wasn't nothing major, but she didn't let it manifest into some shit 6 months from now, where she's, standing over top of me while I'm sleeping and holding a butcher knife, because she let the snowball effect, like I tend to do,
Yes.
suffer from the snowball effect. She doesn't do that. She tends to, and I can tell when something's wrong. And sometimes I got to pull it out of her, and sometimes she has to pull it out of me. But I think communication in a healthy manner is huge in any relationship or any organization. If there's a lack of communication and uh, I'm sorry, I started thinking of another story that I was thinking of about lack of communication. But for instance, if there's lack of communication at home, one, the other person or yourself don't really know what's going on, or what you're feeling, because body language can say a lot of different things. It's almost like reading a text message and taking it out of text. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Because communication needs to be verbally, whether it be over the phone, but even then you can't see their body language or their hands flying. But face to face communication, any form of communication is better than no communication. But I think having meetings, whether it's a family meeting or a business meeting, and staying in communication, is a big thing. So communication, the importance of, what's your opinion?
Yeah. I mean, communication is key. And you kind of touched on a point that I want to go back over
Yep.
about the difference in men and women in the situation. And I think the reason that, from what I can tell, I'm obviously not a woman, just to clear that up,
Hmm.
is as women, they're able to go, I am a woman. And
Hmm.
they are inherently born with the right of being feminine. And because I have a firm belief that masculinity is to be earned and femininity is to be protected. So that they're born with the inherent ability to just feel. They go, I'm just a woman. As a man, you cannot say that. You cannot just go, I'm just a man. Hey, I'm just a, nah, dude, you're a man. Let's go. And
Hmm.
once you can get clear, because saying that as a man, as you understand that you're constantly in stride of this goal of manhood,
Hmm.
you will get to a point in your being rigid enough where, at some point between 18 to the day you die, you will get to a point where you can take a couple punches in the face emotionally and ignore them. And over time, they will build up, and that snowball effect will happen.
Hmm.
That is where it is so important to go into a journal or go into a meditation and go, how do I feel? And catch that before that snowball effect happens. Because if I'm just at the top of the hill and I throw the snowball at you, you can just go. But if
Mhm.
it's a snowball, damn, yeah, now we got a problem. And
Mhm.
that's why it's so important, in my opinion, as men, especially, to get very, very clear on those feelings. Because if not, me feeling slightly disrespected, whether it be with an employee or with a colleague, with whoever it's going to be,
Mhm. Mhm.
if I just take that one time and I go, okay, that's fine. They probably didn't mean it that way. And I do it again, and I do it again, and I do it again and again. And in 2 years, I've got some resentment. And all it
Yeah.
takes me to not get my coffee that day, you say something, I'm going to pop back. And it's like, but if I would have just collected over 2 years prior, and I would have addressed it like, hey, nope, that's not how we're going to talk. And I know you didn't mean it like that at all. But for me to feel respected, I would much rather you prefer have said that statement this way. And now I can
Mhm.
address that situation in love. And I never had that snowball effect. So
Amen.
I don't know if I
Amen.
answered your question, but
No, yeah, no, that's good. I'm glad you brought that back up because I kind of had a mental block there. I was thinking of another situation where poor communication led to another situation, and I'm glad you kind of invert or direct. We're having technical difficulties. No, just kidding. um, but thank you for interjector in whatever the hell I'm trying to say.
I know
Anyhow,
what you're saying. You're good.
yes, thank you. But anyhow, so okay, so okay, to change the subject a little bit, but not really. So many people struggle with finding, the work-life balance. How do
Yep.
you personally manage your time and prioritize self-care while handling multiple roles? Whether it be your personal coaching, your family, realtor, being a realtor. I'm assuming you're a realtor.
I am. That's not my main practice. I have my
Okay,
license, but that's
well,
not
real
primarily
estate.
what I
Then
do.
we'll just chalk it up
Yeah,
as real estate,
sure.
and running an investment company.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how do you juggle all these things?
Yeah. One thing that I kind of just want to correct that I feel like is a public narrative, or at least
Yes.
was the public narrative that was pushed on me, was it has to look this way to be successful. Got to wake
Mm,
up at 5 a.m. Got to do this. Got to do this X, Y, and Z. Got to do your morning routine. Got it has to look this way. And I would find myself a lot. I'm a very disciplined person. Like if I say I'm going to do something, I'm doing it,
mhm,
and it would disempower me. I would wake up and I would do this whole thing, and I wouldn't feel empowered. I would feel low energy. And once I got to the point where I realized that and I was conscious, like, I don't feel empowered doing all this, running around, working when people say this is what it needs to be, blah, 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 blah. And I started to go, okay, I would just track my day. And I would go, what are the activities where I am at my highest vibration, where I am really showing up empowered and I am
mm,
just taking it to it, just kicking ass. What are the activities that I'm doing? And then I would just document. I wouldn't try to change anything. I would just document. And then I would just, write the activity of whatever it's going to be. And I would put right beside it how I felt, stressed out. Okay. I apparently in the mornings, if I check my emails at 7:30, believe it or not, I get stressed out.
mhm,
So I'll go, okay, I'm going to push that to, 9:30 or whatever it is. And then I will just start move my schedule around. I mean, now mine fits for me. But that's the biggest thing is you can copy anybody's schedule and go, this is what works for XYZ person,
mhm.
but it may not make you feel empowered. So for me, it's like, what are the activities that I need to do to show up in my highest form? And for me, it used to be waking up at 5 a.m. Now I get up at about 6:30. 6:30, then I go outside. I'll literally just stand on the grass and
Mhm.
I'll kind of say a prayer and I'll just go over like my life is fantastic. I'm 20, I'm 25. I love my life. I love the people I work with. I love my apartment complex. And I'll just go through this thing. Literally this morning, before I even did anything, I was sitting out in front of my balcony, literally tears running down my face because this is a dream. I'm about to be on a podcast. I have the greatest assistant that I could ever ask for in my period. And I'm just bawling my eyes out. And like if I can show up that way and I missed an email and I don't get to it till 9:30, I could not care less because I'm
Yeah,
enjoying my life and I'm being the most empowered person I can be.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. I love every point that you made too. And this is again going back to trying to figure out, what makes you tick and learning you, right? And unfortunately, it's taken me almost 47 years to actually find out and identify what times of day do I function best, or what do I need to do, or what do I need to remove, right, for my life. And I love how you said about not checking your email and phone and stuff like that. So I don't check my phone. I don't get on social media
Yeah.
or anything like that until I get to work. I literally have on my calendar at 10 a.m. Now, hopefully, no one that I work with is listening to this. At 10 a.m. I check because that's my flow state. Where I need that flow state before it could be dramatic, it could be great news, it could be whatever that is. But again, doing the things that I need to do in the morning. So I get up. I recently stopped setting an alarm,
Yeah.
right? Because for 40, well, not 40, but 30 some years, I lived with an alarm clock, 2 or 3 at times.
Yes.
And waking up like that has not been conducive to my health. And unfortunately, it's taken me 30 plus years to realize waking up to an annoying sound has started my day out just bad, annoyed, right? And then I put my feet down. I've done it for so long. I'm up. I'm that guy that's up by 5 a.m. every day. If not, like I get like this weird anxious feeling because I've tried it. Again, these are all things I've trial and error. Now I didn't go as far as documenting it, but that's a great idea. Anxiety starts to kick in if I lay past much 5:30.
Yeah.
So I know I need to get out. I do my thing. I quit smoking recently. I don't know. It's been like 6, 7
Oh, yeah.
months. So I don't go outside, let the dogs out. I let the dogs out, but I do that without lighting up a cigarette with them while I'm outside. I actually
Yeah.
had to come up with a whole new routine for that. I let them outside. I close the door. We have a gated fenced backyard, fenced in backyard. I go in. I drink only 1 cup of coffee anymore. I don't drink it continuously throughout the course of the day.
Better than me.
Yep. So I make my 1 cup of coffee and I drink it before I leave. And I go into the room. It's actually the bathroom is where I read my 2 books. And I started to hang around the house. And I've never done this up until this past year, hanging around the house until Rocket gets up and goes to school.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you because I used to think that you had to work 25 hours a day, 8 days a week. I was that guy and still can fall into that because sometimes shit just needs to get done. Right.
Sure.
And I honestly believe we wouldn't be where we're at if I didn't go through that, whether it was good or bad. I needed all that experience in that.
Yeah.
Anyhow. But I don't know how many first days of school I've missed. I don't know how many basketball games, football games, last days of school, graduations, all of those things, even my own graduation I missed. Or maybe I was there, it was just in a blackout. I don't remember. But I've had to change some things. So typically his bus, he's the first one on the bus and the last one to get off the bus. So he leaves very early in the morning. For a student, that is 15-year-old kids, has to get on the bus at 6:15. Some days I can't always pull that off, but at least 3 out of the 5 business days I'm there. And it's no special ritual. It's just, hey, buddy, good to see you. I see him go out the door, have a great day. I love you.
Yeah.
And it's just being emotionally there has done something for me, and being intentional about like, okay, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays are the days that I'm not going to leave the house until after Rocket gets on the bus, has done something for me spiritually and emotionally. And I can see even in him, it's had an impact on him. And I think he looks for me now. Now, I never said to him that, hey, I'm going to hang out for now on, until you get on the bus or anything like that.
Right.
But that's part of my daily morning routine in order for me, because that's a win. I stack, first and foremost, I open my eyes. Secondly, I put my feet on the floor. I read my 2 books. I let my dogs out. And then now I didn't check my phone, so here I'm stacking 4, 5, 6, 8 wins, hang out with Rocket, now I'm armed and ready to go out and face the world. Bring it, whatever you got. I'm not a morning out worker outer. I find, and again, this is learning who I am and learning my body and my mind and stuff. If I work out in the morning, it tends to take my energy from me, and I have low energy throughout the course of the day. But what I have found out is if I work out between 4 and 5, it allows me to catch my second wind, to be more present with my family, attend the meetings and the clubs that I'm a part of in the evening, because, having a busy schedule, I call it second shift, is after 5 o'clock. Now I'm putting in second shift, whether it's date night on Tuesday nights with Jan, I need to be, emotionally present. I need to be intentional about that time. You know what I mean? And if I'm beat and tired and stressed out, and again, I try not to look at my phone, but these are things, and again, I should have documented all these things so I could rattle them off. But living in my calendar, because I have date night on my calendar, I have checked my email 7 days a week at 10 a.m. And I get a notification an hour before all of these things. I put everything in my calendar. If my calendar is empty, then I'm a mess. Like I need to know what and where I need to be. I need to fill up my time with positive things, and we get to pick and choose what times of day. And Vic and I had this conversation too. Share the calendar with your significant other, so they
Oh, yeah.
know what your day is going to look like. And oh my God, what should I expect when he gets home? Because I know what he's going through today. You know what I mean? If you have a significant other that's like that, you know what I mean? There's some other horrible relationships that I've been in with other people, and they wouldn't have gave two shits what kind of day that I had. But you know, by me sharing it with Jana, she'll at least know what kind of day. Like, oh my God, he had 12 meetings today, 6 via Zoom and 6 across town. So he's going to be really tired. So then she can prepare herself mentally or physically, emotionally for when I get home. But not that I'm like a raving lunatic or whatever, but at least she'll know, okay, he's going to be home at this time for supper. Right. And that's what I meant mostly, you know, preparing herself, or I'm going to be home late for date night or whatever like that. But that, not that we don't communicate throughout the course of the day either, but communication, going back to the communicate, this whole entire conversation we're having right now, we've hit just about every single button that I thrive on and love every single topic that we've discussed. And so thank you for a freaking awesome
Absolutely, man.
conversation.
It's been a blast.
Yeah. So before we get off here, we're about 56 minutes into it, which I can't believe already. It feels like about 26 minutes maybe. But
Yeah, it's been
but
fun.
lastly here, for our viewers and personally here, selfishly, I ask you these questions so I can better myself and in
Sure.
turn impact other people, you know, out there listening. And that's what we're really trying to do here. So thank you for such a freaking awesome episode here. But do you have any resources, books, or tools that you recommend for individuals seeking personal, you know, growth? You know, not just you know, when I talk about growth, internally and external growth, and internally and external health,
Yeah.
that they can start implementing in their lives.
Yeah. For books, I would probably say Think and Grow Rich. Of course, I'm always going to say that book. The book, The Universe Has Your Back by Gabby Bernstein, was a transformational book for me. And then the book, It Takes What It Takes by Trevor Millett. That book is significant for me. I read that book in a period of like probably a year and a half ago, or maybe 2 years ago, when I was first starting out in real estate. And it was like I was just getting my ass kicked. And it really put into perspective of like, why did I believe that I was special, that my path was not going to be hard just like everybody else's? And I think, you know, young entrepreneurs, myself, even still, I come victim of this, of thinking that I don't need to pay the price, that I don't need to work hard, that I can just make money and not have to, and that's just not real. So that book, It Takes What It Takes. You know, Universe Has Your Back. Think and Grow Rich. Meditation is a huge practice, and then I have a personal development coach that I've met with once a week for probably 9 months now. So if you want to connect with her, feel free to DM me on Instagram. My Instagram's The Williams Ben. Shoot me a DM. I'd love to connect you with her. She's helped me tremendously. Honestly, probably that'd be it.
Yeah. That's what I do. Good answers, man. Yeah, good answer.
Thank you.
Reading's big. Again, that's expanding your mind, strengthening that brain muscle.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And giving you different perspective on how to think too. And Think and Grow Rich is a phenomenal book. We could go on and on and on about books, whether it's culture, leadership, financial books, stuff like that. But that's where it's at. Reading and writing, and obviously speaking, which I have issues with a little bit here and there every now and then when we have.
And Make It Count by Hunter Blue.
Yeah, there you go. Make it count. Yeah, Hunter, you're listening out there. Way to go, Ben. So speaking of Hunter, he's got a birthday bash this weekend.
Yep.
Are you attending that?
I am.
I have a feeling you're speaking at the Revolt Live, aren't you? Or is that a different time? Maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong. Or maybe I can let the cat out of the bag.
Told me what? So that
Okay.
makes me a little anxious.
Yeah, maybe not. I assume because you're pretty close to him, I would imagine, because it
Yeah.
sounds like your guys' story is so familiar, and that's who introduced us, and I'm grateful for that. And going back to, and not to sound cliche, but our network is our net worth, and because through Hunter being the conduit, for us connecting like this, man, I love it. And let's stay. And I'm not just saying this because we're on the air right now, but I want you to be a part of that sum.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'd love to, for sure.
Yeah, because you got some really good perspective on stuff, and I needed that fresh perspective on so many different things that you discussed with us today. So, thank you for coming on the show here,
Thank you.
and thank you everybody for listening. And like, love, subscribe, share, comment on all of our platforms. We are now on YouTube Live, Facebook Live, obviously, and that's how you're watching us now. Spotify, Google Play, and Apple. So check us out, like us, love us, review us. Reviews are nice, so we can get this awesome content out to people who so desperately probably need it and have a different aspect on life. And by all means, reach out to Ben or myself if anyone seems to be struggling in anything. Reach out to us. Our phones are always on, as far as hitting us up, DM us on Facebook. What did you say your handle was on Instagram?
The Williams Ben. The Williams Ben. Yep.
The Williams Ben. There you have it, guys. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Awesome. Thanks, brother.